Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sara Jane, and we're missing Enolia because she's got a power cut. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we will get her. She will be able to join us, but we accept the fact that power cuts technology may not permit. But I am delighted to welcome Deborah Crowley.
Yes.
Sorry, I've been asked that before. Deborah Crowley to the program. And we are going to be talking about serving the elderly. So I hope that this will help and support actually many of you. And I know we've just been having a conversation before, which in some respects actually goes to serving the elderly, but in a totally different way that I was expecting us to have any sort of conversation. But Deborah, thank you so much for joining. I'm going to say us with the hope that Enolia sort of joins us. And hello, Tanya, who's joined us sort of watching live. So Deborah, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you and Enolia to talk about such an amazing subject. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
That's all right. It's a real pleasure. So will you please share a little about yourself and why this particular subject is so important to you?
Okay. I am the founder of Exclusive Elderly Resource Center. And it's a nonprofit organization where it will be a one-stop location for seniors to get whatever they need. Mortgage loans, transportation. We also created a program called CAVA, where we will in-house all of their documents, anything that's going to Social Security, Medicaid, Blue Care Network, any information that needs to be dispersed, because a lot of times we know that seniors can't do that because they're not acclimated with computers. So this program will be able to in-house those documents. So whenever anyone needs anything from the seniors, we can send it on out. So that's my passion with that. Also, too, I am the founder of Exclusive Cleaning Services. I've been doing this for about 15 years. We provide residential and commercial cleaning. We also provide free cleaning for cancer patients as well. And also Ladies of Justice, where we empower women to have access to an attorney. Also an opportunity for them to build a legacy for their family financially, and also utilizing the attorney to help them grow in their life and their business. And like I said, leave a legacy for their family as well. So I have many hats, but I love working.
I think the truth is most of us have many hats. It's whether they all fit together or they seem to need to be kept separate.
Absolutely.
So very much talking about the elderly. And actually, I think in the old days, I'd be classed amongst them because, we used to be able to retire at 60 in this country. And I'm now 64 and I've got to wait till I'm 66 to get my pension. But yeah, I think, and I was thinking about this before the program, and I was thinking, I would actually be classed as old as the elderly by the children because of the age that I am. And I remember thinking about my grandparents, and actually I do remember my great grandmother, and they definitely were to me old, but were they that old? And what's the mindset of the elderly today? I think of my mother at 85. She has still got her marbles on the hole. It's the physical situation with the arthritis, etc., with the body. But it's important that actually I think the elderly of today have got a different mindset because of the way life has changed to the elderly of yesteryear. And I think it makes a real difference. And there's much more available to the I'm not sure I like using that term, our older generations. There's much more available for them. Life is very different than it was all those years ago when, parents, a single parent left after one had died, would end up by living with the daughter or a son or whatever. And it just isn't the same anymore.
It isn't actually. It's sad to say that it's gotten worse. The elderly are being left behind, especially after the pandemic. It's like an isolation for them right now. The elderly, they have physical problems, cognitive problems, emotional problems, social problems. There's a lot of things going on with the elderly right now. Back in the day, and I use that term back in the day, there was so much respect for the elderly, so much respect. But now it's totally different. It's a different world right now. And like I said, seniors are living in isolation now. And it's not that because we don't love them like their siblings, sisters and brothers. We don't love them, but it's just hard right now for them. They are struggling. In the cleaning industry, I've seen a lot of that where we clean homes for seniors. And I feel so bad. And my cleaners feel so bad about it as well, because they go there and they have paperwork stocked up to the ceiling. The house is just dirty because they can't keep up because of physical problems, and they just can't think right. A lot of them have dementia. So it's a huge issue right now. And I think we need to come together and bring them back to life, because without them, we would not be here.
And it's a really difficult, isn't it? Because you've actually got that group that absolutely are able and still willing to be able to do things for themselves. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be stuck into a home. They wish to be able to stay in their own home. Yes, my mum does have somebody that goes in and cleans for her every now and again. I'm not sure whether it's once a week, once a fortnight, once a month, whatever it is, but she does. Because she's got major arthritis in her hands. But she's always loved to cook, and some of that's getting difficult for her, but she still likes to do it. She's an active person. She likes to go out she knows how healthy it is to go out for walks. She lives in a block of flats, but they have a community within that block of flats. And I think that's the thing I think about is there isn't any need for people to be on their own. But one of the things we've all been saying to her for so long, and at long last she's done it, she couldn't hear us properly, but she wouldn't go and get her hearing tested. She's now had it done. She's got hearing aids, and now she can hear. But it caused so much stress for her and frustration for us. And it's for all of us. It's really important that, yes, we are there to help our older generations, but it's also important that they help themselves when they can.
That's amazing that you said that. We have to understand that they are setting their ways. So it's going to be the toughest thing to get them out of their own mindset, because they're still thinking about a long time ago how they used to be, because as they always say, they turn back into children.
Yeah.
And so their mindset is still back there. So, and that's, you said about your mom getting a hearing aid. In her mind, she thinks she can hear.
But she knew she couldn't, because she was always saying pardon.
Like my mom, there's a story, and I'll share that later on, but my mom, I went into her house. She was passing away. And I went into her home. I came from Michigan, and she lived in New Jersey. And I cleaned her house out. She had everything that she had for years. Do you know, she asked me about a vacuum cleaner. This vacuum cleaner was just broken into pieces. One piece was in the living room, one piece was in her bedroom. And she was mad at me because I threw the vacuum away. So I'm saying that to say they're so set, their mindset is it's going to be tough. And we think that they're just being mean and stubborn. No, I understand now. Before I didn't because I couldn't understand. I'm going to it. It's just a vacuum cleaner. I'll buy you another vacuum cleaner. Debbie, you don't understand. I've had that vacuum cleaner for years and you threw it away. So it's the mindset. And I don't know if we could do anything about that. I just don't know.
It is a difficult one, isn't it? Because there's no two ways about the fact those that really do still wish to have their independence. And it's important to be able to have that independence for as long as they can have it. You know, sort of mum tries to keep her mind active because, you know, she's very aware, you know, could she end up with sort of Alzheimer's or sort of or the like, you know, and she doesn't want to go that route if she can help it. So, you know, she likes doing her morning crosswords and things, you know, sort of, and getting involved in sort of going down to games days and sort of answering questions and sort of, and it's really good that she does that. And she likes her little flat, you know, sort of, you know, because dad had moved them over to a flat and then sort of we lost my dad. But she was in a much more secure, safe place than being in a house. And that's why he did what he did, just in case he went first. And he did. And I get that and I appreciate that. But it is also about, yes, thinking about my grandparents. Because yes, my mum's mum did live with her for quite a while, but that was, or had her own little flat, but that was also stressful for both of them, lonely because they lived in the middle of the countryside. You know, when you're living in a town, you've got those places you can go. It's a really difficult one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. They say, and I pulled up some statistics, nearly 1/3 of all seniors live by themselves, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. But they said that's close to 14 million seniors aging alone, senior isolation. In my family, we had 4 generations, and they all lived together. And believe it or not, my grandmother passed away before my great great grandmother and my great 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 grandmother. So they all lived together. But it's amazing how they just still live their lives. And being independent is. I just went to McDonald's the other day, and it was nothing but seniors in there serving. So I asked one of the guys, he's like, I'm loving it because I'm not closed in my house. I'm doing something. I'm seeing you and I'm smiling. I'm helping you. Even though I need extra income to survive, he said, I'm just happy being out of the house. You believe that? So I'm like, wow, that was pretty profound.
Oh, absolutely. Because, you know, sort of, you know, it is important, you know, sort of mum, she's not able to do it anymore, but she, you know, dad also, he became a driver to help drive people to the hospital or to the surgery for appointments or things like that. You know, mum was a nurse in her earlier years. You know, and so she gets involved with the other folks in the flats, and if somebody does require regular injections, if she can help, she will help. You know, and when you can be in a community like that, it isn't all then down to the family. My youngest sister lives closest.
Okay.
You know, and that obviously does put, I'm going to use the word, a burden on her. The truth with all her 3 of her daughters is we're all self-employed. And the problem with self-employed is that many people think that means you can drop everything and just go and do whatever they need whenever you want. And it just doesn't work like that. If we were employed, they couldn't ask us.
I'm laughing at that because that was me.
Yeah.
They think that you're self-employed, so you could just drop and do whatever, but I still have a business to run. Mind you, with my story with my mom, I was still running my business, going back and forth to New Jersey from Michigan at least every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
because she was passing away. So that means that somewhat my business was being neglected because I had to take care of my mom. But I just had that faith. I'm like, okay, this is going to work. I had my staff do what they needed to do, and they stepped up, and I truly appreciate them. But they do think that because you have a business that you could just drop everything and just go take care of the people. And even when you were talking about siblings, they say a mom could raise 10 children, but 10 children can't take care of a mom. And that's so true. And it's not, and now I understand it's not because the siblings don't want to. Some of them don't want to. You have some defiant ones, but the timing. It's hard to take care of your family. Then you got to take care of your parents because you have to, and the medical bills, the bills, the home bills. Like with my mom, I took over all her bills, all of her bills. And she didn't understand too, because she was like, okay, where's all my money? Like, I paid your bills. I paid your bills and included, utilizing my own money. So it's a struggle. And like I said, we can't blame. Some siblings are just defiant. They just don't want to help at all. But then you have that one sibling that will do everything and take on everything. And then that sibling is struggling mentally because they have to watch their parents, watch them somewhat pass away when no one's helping. And that's a struggle too. That's a whole nother issue that needs to be addressed too. Because if you have 6 siblings and you only have one person taking care of your mom and dad, there's a problem. There's a problem. But anyway, I could go on about that one.
Oh no, and it is. It's one of those things, isn't it? Sort of, because mum won't leave where she lives. She'd ummed and ahed about it, but because of all the hospital and doctor's appointments and things that she has, and she's very happy with the service and everything that she gets where she is. The thought she had at one stage thought that she might move to Bournemouth, where myself and my other sister are. And then it was, but I am not leaving my doctors. They know me, I know them.
Wow.
And I'm getting amazing service down here. So why am I going to move? And so whereas my younger sister had been thinking, oh, good, if she moves to Bournemouth. But Jackie thought she might move to Bournemouth as well. But with mum saying she wants to stay down there, or she's going to stay down there, there is no option. It's just, it is what it is.
That's the same thing. And it's so amazing that you and I are having this conversation because we're not the only ones going through it. And I hope this helps someone out there to understand some things too. My mom living in New Jersey, and I'm living here in Michigan. So I had to prepare to bring her here. So trying to find homes to put her in because I have a stair. So I have stairs in my home. So I couldn't bring her to my home. So that's adjusting my whole life. I would have to move somewhere so she can live, or the decision to put her in a home. And that's the hardest thing to do because guess what? That's expensive.
Yeah.
That's truly, truly expensive. So it's a lot of mental issues, emotions going on because you have to make that decision. But my mom said to me, Debbie, wait until my birthday. This was 6 months later. She wanted to wait in the next year. But I already knew that she was passing, but she told me to wait. I'm like, no, I need to bring you to Michigan. But then you have to think about the flight. You have to pay for the flight. You have to think about getting her a different doctor in a different state. You have to think about changing her Medicare or Medicaid, whatever, over to Michigan, changing the license, changing everything, make sure her will, her power of attorney, everything is all set. So it's a lot. And that's why I'm opening up this company to help siblings and help seniors not to worry about that because there's a lot of other things that they could worry about. But if I have this one-stop location and have these vendors connecting to help out, and I have so many people that are willing to help. I have someone that her name is Josephine Rose. She does cancer. Susan Coleman, she said, I'll help with the cancer patients. I have someone that was a bank and mortgage. She said, I'll help them fill out their applications for mortgage. Crystal Gunn. Tanya Matas, I have a board that I already created a board, and everybody's on board because everyone knows how it is to be a senior. And it's just time for us to help them out. Help them out.
And it's about helping them to help themselves.
Oh.
That's the important thing, is many of them don't wish to feel a burden. They wish to live their lives. They wish to have their own friends. They wish to still be able to go out and do things. You know, and it's supporting them to do that.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. They have to, as well as, and I use an example with my mom, because I can only tell you from experience. She was very independent. Like, you couldn't tell her anything. I'm like, okay, you need to do this. Debbie, I got it. Debbie, I'll take my own medicine. Don't tell me to take this. I got it. I'll do this and I'll do that. And to the point where they get isolated in the house too. I'm like, you have to go outside. You have to just walk outside to get some air. And she wouldn't go outside. But you're right. They have to gain their own independence too. You know what I mean? And that's where independent living come in. But that's so expensive. It's so expensive. It's to the point where they can't have a certain amount. I'm going on a different subject, but they can't have a certain amount in their bank account before they can live in these senior homes or this assisted living. You got to have a certain amount of money. So it's just hard for them to be independent. It really is. But we can only coach them.
Oh, and I think we've got to realize it is different here in the UK to the way it is in the States, to the way it is in other countries in the world, because everybody has their own systems of things, you know, sort of, and it's what support is available. And I know the government over here really does want to try and keep people in their own homes for as long as possible. And as you said, going into nursing homes is ridiculously expensive. You know, and I've heard it said on more than one occasion that it's cheaper and you've got doctors available to go on a cruise for the rest of your life. It's cheaper to go and live on a cruise ship and cruise around the world than it is to go into a nursing home.
Did you hear that story? There was a senior lady, a mature, I call seniors mature. Yeah. I don't say seniors or elderly too. She went on a cruise until she passed away. She kept going on cruises. That was her life. She didn't have to pay rent. She just went on cruises to the point where they gave her free trips because she came so much. So that's funny you said that, but I heard a story about that where this mature lady, that's all she did was get on cruises and just enjoy her life.
Yeah. And because they have the medical staff there on board ship because they have to.
Everything was right. The food, she didn't have to cook. She said nothing. The pool was there. Like you said, the doctors and the nurses, everything was there. That's all she did. That was a story I heard too.
Good for her. And my reaction is, do you know what? If I go into the stage where I'm feeling I need the support, maybe I'll go and do exactly the same thing.
That's something that I'll do too as well. And sometimes I think about myself. I'm here in Michigan and all my family is in New Jersey. I'm like, okay, so in my will and everything, I have everything laid out. What I want to do, send me back home. But that's still going to be a cost. And I sometimes still feel that it would be a burden on my kids too as well. Because they have to figure out who's going to run my business, what's going to happen. So that's why I'm working extremely hard to make sure I leave a legacy and set it up for my kids and my family where I won't put that burden on them. And sometimes people are like, well, you work too hard. You need to rest. You need to do this. I have to set it up for myself too. And so it won't be a burden to anyone else. But yeah, it's seniors. We just have to do what we need to do to make sure we leave a legacy, make sure we have our will and our power of attorney done so the kids won't have to worry about it.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know about over there, but over here that, you can actually set your own funeral up. You can get it all paid in advance.
Really?
And yeah, absolutely. And bearing in mind the costs of funerals, there are even now companies that are just doing, you can sort of basically, whoever it is, they can go, they'll cremate them and you'll just get the ashes back. There's no service, no anything. And it costs, I mean, it's still expensive. Of course, it's still expensive, but it's maybe sort of a quarter of the price of an actual full-blown funeral.
That's what my mom did. This is so amazing. My mom said, Debbie, I want to be cremated. And I dreaded that because I just don't think people should be cremated. But that's what she wanted. So I did that. And this is going to shout you. Just last year, I just put her ashes into a tomb. Just last year. And my mom passed away, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, because I couldn't bear to even touch it or bear to even know that my mom was burnt. I know that's harsh, but it's just reality. And I just couldn't. But I knew this, that her spirit had already left when she passed away. So that's what kept me holding on, because I know her spirit, she was gone. That day when she was doing this, asking for her mom, her spirit was gone already. But a lot of people are going that route, cremating.
But they're also going the road. Tanya just said, I have changed my mind about a full funeral. An awful lot of people, I suppose it depends whether it's, if you like, for my mother, it was right to give my dad a full funeral.
Okay.
But now that it's just her, do my sisters and myself, because it's about what's your belief. And we can celebrate her life differently.
Absolutely.
It isn't about it being in a church or a funeral service home or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it better to celebrate their life in a different way and find a way? My dad's ashes are scattered in a place that Mum said she wants hers to be scattered. So she's scattered with him. And so we will do that. But of course, obviously, this conversation isn't meant to be about that side of things. It's meant to be about the people who are still living. And it's really about that. And it's about their choices. What are their choices?
That's why.
And my mum's choice was said, well, she said, there's no way I could live with you and Jackie because it just wouldn't work with us. The only one of my daughters I could potentially cope with living with is the middle one, is Katie. But and so it's also being aware of the characters. It's not a matter of the siblings not necessarily wishing to support, but is there a clash between that parent and some of the children? And if that exists, then there is no way that would ever be a happy place to live.
And you find that a lot where siblings and parents are having issues.
Yeah.
A lot of issues. And that's why some of the siblings don't want to take care of the parents, because in their mind, they're like, in all honesty, they feel that they're getting back to that parent, but you're really not. But that's an emotional thing that's going on in a lot of families, where there's trouble like that, where they don't even want to be around their parents. And I think now, and we're talking about the death part and then them living now, give them their flowers while they're here. You know what I mean? It's time to just let go of all the craziness. I had to do it. And just forgive, if you will. It's hard, but forgive.
Oh, it's very hard, but it's also realizing that our parents did the best they could with the information they had, also the money that they had and didn't have. I think about my own story going back to being a child. And as I said, I had a sister, before the program, I said I had a sister that died at 9 weeks old. which was all part of the early part of my life, which was very traumatic. I was hospitalized for 3 months as a tiny baby. I had my first birthday in hospital. And at that time, parents couldn't stay with their children. I saw my parents once a week for an hour. Now they know the emotional damage that causes. You cannot explain to a child of that age that it is not the parents who don't want to see them and don't want to be with them. It's circumstances and the rules of the hospital. The rules of the hospital were every other day. The reality, because of dad working full time, mum didn't drive, but he had to have the car anyway. She couldn't get to the hospital because of the distance to the hospital. And she was pregnant with my sister Gillian. You know, all those things, they were circumstances that created things outside their control. You cannot explain that to a child. That child is just hurt.
It's I too have went through some trauma in being a parent. Someone had said to me, I through my trauma that I did the best that I could. Your kids know that you love them. You were supposed to bring them into the world, and they're here. Long as you're there when they fall, if they fall, you make sure you're there to pick them up. And yes, they feel, and we feel, I felt that my mom should have been there. There was no love there in my family when I was growing up for me. I'll say that. I'm being very humble right now. But you have to move on.
Oh, yeah, because I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel wanted. I didn't feel good enough. I really didn't. And, you know, but it's as the adult that coming to that understanding that it was not my parents' fault. The accident that occurred was not their fault. It was an accident that hospitalized me.
I felt that same way. After growing up, you realize that.
Yeah.
It took a minute. You didn't understand that at the beginning, but after a while, you understood that. And that was in my situation too with my mom, because someone has to break that cycle.
Yeah.
Someone that they call it a generational curse. I hate to say that,
yeah.
But someone has to break that cycle because it'll continue. And that's my goal, to break that cycle. But anyway, go ahead. And I'm sorry.
And it is difficult. It really is difficult. You know, sort of a child that feels unloved is going to struggle when it becomes the reverse. And at the end of the day, that child is still deep inside the adult.
Absolutely.
That child is still feeling that hurt, that rejection, that pain.
Then you take it into your relationships.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You take that into your relationships. So it has a triple effect. That's why I say sometimes we have to break that cycle. Someone has to do it in your family. Break that cycle so it won't happen again in the next generation. Yeah, because go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult. And Tanya's just put yes. It is needed and it is very difficult. It is very difficult. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that so many older people, while the two of them are together, I know there are some cases where obviously they both need taking care of. But while there are the two of them, that's, you know, they got each other to live for.
Yeah.
But when one goes, that becomes really, really difficult.
Very.
And watching my mother when my dad died, and now obviously with her having lost her gentleman friend earlier this year, you know, she's had a double whammy of that.
Yeah.
And it has been difficult. Of course, it's been difficult for her. And we have to realize that. And of course, an older person who's had their husband, their wife, their partner die, when they are that much older, and especially, and it's usually if the husband dies and the husband's done everything. The husband's dealt with all the paperwork, the banking, the bill paying, the etc. etc. Okay, it's going back now because there are so few checks around, but some people, some women had never even written a check in their life.
I've experienced that. Like I said, with the cleaning company, the lady who I was expressing earlier, she had paperwork stacked from here. And she told my cleaners that she just didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to pay a bill. She didn't even know how to write a check.
Huh.
And you see that so clearly too as well, that they just don't know what to do. And then 9 times out of 10, when the other significant other passes away, the other partner just can't survive.
Yeah.
Can't survive. And what do we do about that? What do we do? How do we help them? What do we do? Are there programs out there to give them some support, counseling? What do we do about situations like that?
And it's a really difficult one. And yeah, okay, my mum was very lucky because actually she decided to go and do a course a few years back so she could actually write websites.
That's wonderful.
Bless her cotton sock. So Dad loved working on the computer, so it was great. So she has got an idea of working with computers, and she orders stuff online, and she does lots of stuff. So she's great. But you've got people who can do the computer thing, although they're still struggling with the bills thing and all the rest of it, because if they have never been shown the banking side of it, sort of all the legal sides of things, etc., etc. But actually, my youngest sister, she's setting up here in the UK, and her dream is for it to go worldwide. She is setting up a website. It's out there, and it's called a doddle.org. And the whole idea is this website is full of community projects, charities, and but all these type of things that help people. So whether it's to do with health, whether it's to do with trauma that you're going through, whatever it is. And it is slowly happening here in the UK. She wishes this to become so that if people require help, they can go and get the help. If people are looking to go and volunteer, they can go and find something local to them where they can go and volunteer. Or if companies are looking to to donate and give to a charity or a community project, or a good cause, they can find them. They can find them in their local area. And it's about what support is out there for people. And she started this because she's got various health conditions herself.
Okay.
And she did have a skin cancer at one time, and she was seeking help and support, and she couldn't find it. You can go onto the internet, you can find a restaurant locally to you, but you can't find the support. And this is why she's done this. This about finding support. So what is out there? How can people access what is available? Because there isn't anywhere that is about what is the support that is local to you.
Wow, that's amazing that you're talking about this, because I was on a podcast with someone from France. And we were having a conversation because he was asking questions in reference to that, not about elderly, but how can we help women all across the United States? And I said, we need to have a resource center. And this is exactly what you're doing, your sister is doing, and this is exactly what I'm doing with the elderly. So I'm in line and tune with what we were talking about, because she can do that. Also, she can get grants for that because you're helping the community. You're not only helping the community, you're helping children, you're helping teenagers, you're helping seniors, you're helping anyone because it's a resource center. And that's my purpose, because like you said, where do you go get help? And people just don't know where to go because everything is all over the place.
Yeah.
And you got to find it. You got to search it. You got to know this company. You got to know that company. But if you have a one-stop shop location where you can get whatever you need, that's awesome. And she can take that anywhere in the United States. You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
UK, wherever.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it. Your whole thing is get the charities, the community projects, the good causes to put themselves on the website. It's free.
It's free.
It's free to put yourself onto the website if you're a charity, a good cause, but it's obviously set up purely for the UK at the moment. But her aim is she wishes it to be worldwide.
And listen to this. I'm willing to talk to her 100% because that's in line with what I'm trying to do. Have a resource center, because being in business for 15 years and not knowing what to do, where to go, I've learned to maneuver and strategize on, okay, what do I need? Who do I need to talk to? Which resource is this? Which resource is that? And that's why like I said, I started the elderly center, because I have connections now and I'm having people connect. So she can have certain vendors. Not only that, is good advertisement for the vendors or the people that she connect to. And it's also profitable, because some places you may have to pay. So that's awesome. That's an awesome suggestion. Awesome.
So, and I think because of obviously the topic of our program, serving the elderly. So is it not, as much as obviously it's about what can families do to support their own more mature members of the family? Because I certainly do not consider myself as being elderly. Although I'm sure my great nieces and nephews definitely think of me that way. But then I think it's about, with each of us, what can we support them to support themselves with? What is there out there? What can we help? But it's encouraging them to say, I require the help, I require the support, and supporting them to get it.
Yeah, I think the important thing is to not, because it's going to be hard to convince them. Like I said, they're set in their ways. But if you consistently say to them, let's get help. Let's find a resource that can help you out. Let's go to bingo. Maybe that'll help you out too. That'll get you out in the world instead of being isolated into the home. Let's find programs that they can get involved with, senior citizen programs. There's different things out there, but we just need to tell them, and we need to find those resources where we can help them. Yeah. And once again, it boils down to what I'm doing. Finding a resource for them and not convincing them, but trying to think of a word to utilize to make them understand that there's help out there for you. You don't have to give up. You don't have to settle for what you're doing. You don't have to be that sad. Let's make you happy because your husband or your significant other passed away. There's other people out there that want to meet you.
Yeah, and Tanya says, if we can figure out how to remove the stigma of aging.
Stigma. And it's funny that you said that about aging. My son called me old. I just turned 62 on the 9th. And he was like, Mom, you're getting old. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not getting old. I'm still young yet. But in our conversation about the elderly, like, time is not on my side like it used to be. Like, I can't wait 20 and 30. Well, I can, but in reality, you can't wait 30 and 40 years now that I'm 62 to decide what I'm going to do. I have to make that decision right now. Even when I had my grandkids, my new grandkids, I said, man, I have to go to work. How am I going to leave that legacy? So I have to go to work. But yeah. Leaving a legacy for your family and getting out there to do what you need to do. And we need to just encourage the seniors to do the same thing. And they need to see their grandkids. Bring your grandkids to your parents. Get on a plane and just take them just to say hi. You know what I mean? Because the grandkids keep them going, whether we know it or not. Right? You have grandkids?
No, I don't have children, but I do have great nieces and nephews.
Okay. They keep you going, right? They keep you going. So, what we could do is just offer hope, encourage them. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think there's that saying, isn't there? Now it's get it right. You don't stop playing because you grow old. You grow old because you stop playing.
Yeah. Awesome.
And we have this is a serious subject, but we've been able to put some humor into it. And that's because, and while we've got that humor, while we've got that ability to be able to laugh about things, yes, we're not saying there's nothing, we're not taking the mickey out of any of this. It's all very serious, but it's not about life being serious.
Absolutely.
It's about how much fun can you still have within your life? How much laughter can you have? And you can have that when you are in, hopefully, a group of other people where you've gone to a quiz and you've all managed to get an answer wrong. And all right, this was back as a child. And it was to do, I don't know whether it was to do with French. And very young, I can't remember how old, but it sticks in my mind. And it was, what was this word? And instead of going duck, we all went quack, quack.
Okay.
Don't ask me why. Don't ask. But it was, and I've just got this memory of this. I don't have many memories from childhood. I really don't, because of being so unhappy. But this word, and it was just, and everybody, and we weren't being asked to give the sound. It was, what's the animal? And everybody just went quack, quack. But why can't adults? And I think about funerals. My grandfather's funeral, my mum's dad, and we were having so much fun when we were talking about him. And some of the things, and when my grandmother died, when her mother had died, we all went up to the funeral, and we got out of the car. She'd undone the zip of her skirt, and when she to sit in the car to be a bit more comfortable, she dozed off. We'd stopped to go and get a drink or something somewhere, and she'd also taken her teeth out and put them in a hanky in her lap. She got out the car, nearly lost her skirt, but her teeth fell on the floor. So and this is what when we've got together about funerals, what can we find that brings us the individual back to life for us? And is it not about keeping that life in our life?
Who came up with the idea that a funeral had to be sad?
I don't know, because the country where everybody is just like, no, it doesn't have to. And so maybe this is why so many people now are saying, are we going to have a funeral? Or are we just going to allow it to be a cremation? We will scatter the ashes as and when, and we will have a celebration of their life.
And that's what we did after my mom's funeral, because, everyone comes out when someone passes away. You see people that you've never seen before, cousins that you don't even know that they were your cousins. But we had a celebration. The family came out. It was wonderful. We took pictures. And the amazing part is the picture that I utilize all the time for my profile. That's the day of my mom's funeral. Believe it or not. And I'm sharing that. No one would have never known that. But that was a happy time for me. Still, because I did all that I could do for her. So who's to say, why does a funeral have to be sad?
And seriously, for my father's funeral, I have these bright colored patchwork trousers.
Okay.
You call pants. But that's not what we call pants. Bright colored patchwork trousers. And apparently he used to love to see me wearing them. She had a service done for him in a Catholic church because we were raised Catholic. She wanted us as daughters to do a reading standing on the altar. And she asked me to wear these trousers for the funeral. And there I was, I stood on the altar at my father's funeral wearing these bright colored patchwork trousers. Did
you feel uncomfortable?
No, because personally my belief, I felt really confident in giving my father permission to leave, which is something I think more and more people are learning, that they can do that for their parents and for family members, etc. But he was ready to go, and I gave him permission to let go and to leave. And So for him, and I've stepped away from religion per se. I have my beliefs. And I do believe he, as Neil Donald Walsh's book, At Home with God, but he refers to it as being our continuation day. And I love that. That helped me to really cope with my dad's death.
Wow.
Because his soul didn't die. It was just his body that's no longer here.
No longer here. That was the same way with my mom. Like, as you and I discussed, when I cremated my mom, it was hard for me, but I already knew her spirit was gone.
Yeah.
It was gone already. I already knew she was in heaven. So, yeah, wow.
So I think it's yes, the celebration of life, but we should be celebrating our lives every day, regardless of our age.
Now,
it is about finding that fun, that laughter, that experience of life.
Now, I've never, more than ever before in my entire life, I have never felt this peaceful. I've never felt that my purpose. And now enjoying the moment and enjoying life and doing everything possible to enjoy it. This is the first time ever in my entire life that I felt a relief, peace. So it's time for us to enjoy the moment. And a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people can't even live in the moment. That's the hardest thing for them to live in right now. Right now.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what your age is. And I do think that older people are younger, if you like, than when we were children. Because thinking about my grandparents, they were both retired. They weren't going out to work. My grandfather had a little job out on a campsite, sort of for a company that did coach tour trips, etc. But that wasn't a job. It wasn't, sort of, he'd done all that. I think you just look at even the old films. People looked older, although they were younger than they looked. Today, a lot of people look an awful lot younger than they actually are. Because I wouldn't have put you at 62. I really wouldn't.
It's amazing too, because it was a point where I said, a lot of people who own businesses, they just look old and tired. And I looked in the mirror, I'm like, and that's not going to be me. I don't want to, I'm not stressing. Literally, I'm telling you, that's when I came to the conclusion that I will not allow a lot of things to stress me out. I'm going to live in the moment, because I looked in the mirror and I'm like, okay, these wrinkles, where are they coming from?
Laughter lines.
Yeah, because of stress. But live in the moment. That's all we could do. And go ahead. Nope.
And that's encouraging the older generation. And we're actually technically part of that. But it's encouraging everyone of any age.
Any age.
You know what? Get out there and live your life.
Absolutely. And they have to be told consistently. They have to be told that consistently. And the respect needs to come back for our elderly, our mature adults. The respect, because remember back in the day, you wouldn't even, did your mother ever say, okay, Miss Deborah, Miss Sarah, Miss Jones? Now, it's not like that anymore. The respect is just not there. But it has to be taught, because somewhere through this journey, someone said, I don't have to respect the elderly.
I think it's one of those things, isn't it? I think many of us do. We wish we'd spent more time learning from our grandparents, maybe even from our parents, about our family history.
Oh my God, that's so important.
And my youngest sister has been doing research into the family tree and some of the information that she has found out. And it would have been so lovely to have been able to have those conversations. About what's going on. And And maybe it is really important to try and have those conversations with, because, you know, when my dad's, well, she was actually his stepmother because his mother died when he was 5. When she died, she was the last of that generation of the direct family. And I remember being in the church and thinking, Mum and Dad are next.
Wow.
And that's quite a sobering thought, really.
It
That
is.
generation had gone.
That's what I said. I always tell my sons is 39 and 29, I think. They're going to kill me. But they have boys. And I tell them now, you are that next generation. You are the ones that are going to set that tone. Because it's me. Now my mom passed the torch to me when she passed away. So my children, you're that next generation. So you truly have to set the tone. And there is a lot of stories that we have not heard from our parents.
Yeah.
Like you said, we need to ask questions because all those stories are going into the graveyard. Those are all the books that should have been written.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you were right. We need to ask questions.
And I truly think that the majority of them, they would love to share their stories. And it's about listening.
Listening. For seniors, they get me all the times. Mature adults, I love to hear their stories. They'll call me and ask me, okay, I can't afford to pay for a cleaning company. And I have to tell my office assistant, like, don't put me on the phone with seniors because I'll clean for them all day for free. Because that's where my heart is with them. I could listen to their stories all day because they have stories.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. And maybe that's part of the thinking. Maybe that should be sort of part of the thinking of folks. Listen to the stories that your parents can share with you. And your grandparents, if you're lucky enough to still have them, can share with you. And if you've got great grandparents, then brilliant. Because, of course, my great nieces and nephews have got a great grandmother. You know, but they've got to be old enough to be, they're not quite old enough yet, but to listen to her and for them to hear the stories from her mouth.
And guess what? That helps you figure out, okay, that's why my mom was like that. Or that's why this situation went that way. Or it's a lot of questions answered once you hear the story. But then it won't be a blame game anymore because you'll understand, oh no, it came from her mother, her mother, her mother. That's what happened to her mother. So it trickled down to everyone else. And that's why I said someone has to break that cycle, especially if it's a negative cycle. You know what I mean? Someone has to break that. But a lot of questions are answered.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We've been talking for nearly an hour. And I know we've got a bit off track at times, but I think it's all totally relevant for what we've been talking about. And thank you, Deborah, so much for joining. I'm sorry Enolia didn't get to join us. It's just one of those things. And I think you and I could continue to talk for ages. So obviously we could bring the program to a close. So we've got up there somewhere your website addresses. So please do, if you want to connect with Deborah, please do. And I will make sure that they are under the YouTube video. So if you're watching there, if you wish to connect with Deborah, and as soon as you've got your third website, let me have that. And I will make sure that that's up there as well. Any final words you'd like to share on our topic before we close?
I think it's important, like I said from the beginning, that you give your parents, grandparents, whomever, their flowers now. Go check on them. Take a minute to make a phone call. To check on them to make sure they're okay. Life is short, like you said. Have fun, enjoy life, find your purpose, or else you're just walking around here. make sure your elderly are taken care of. Just give them a call and ask them if they're okay. If you're on a bus with them, give them a seat on a bus. If you see them, pay for their meal. Do something, because without them, you wouldn't be here. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. It was wonderful. I know we didn't go off track because it all coincided together. And I hope we helped someone.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Thank you so very much. Next week, I'm just sharing a meditation, a solstice meditation. And it doesn't matter which solstice it is, because I appreciate that it's going to be the winter one in the Northern Hemisphere and the summer one in Southern Hemisphere. So it doesn't really matter. It's just a solstice meditation. And then the following Wednesday, 28th of December, another today's conversation for you, right around the corner, with guests David McLeod and Scott Holmes. So I hope you will join us for that. Thank you, Deborah. Take care. Be safe. Stay well.
Thank you.
Namaste, sweet soul. Bye.